Hi, I'm Veronica Arreola, and my favorite thing is women's soccer.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and I'm coming to you live from a hotel room in Springfield, Illinois. It is Sunday, March 21st. This is the first time I've been in a hotel since February of 2020, and I'm in Springfield to get my COVID vaccine. There's a mass vaccination site in Springfield that had appointments available for statewide. And so I scheduled an appointment a few weeks ago and drove down last night because I was terrified of oversleeping and missing my 12 noon appointment. I'm still worried. The appointment's in 2 hours and I'm still nervous that something could happen and it could not happen. But I'm kind of like a kid on Christmas morning, but I still don't know if Santa's here yet, and I won't know until I get the shot. The rumor is that this vaccination site is using the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which means that I don't have to come back down for a second shot. And instead of coming back down for a second shot, I can come down and spend time with my family or go see my parents who have been fully vaccinated against COVID. I say that with a lot of privilege and luck and care that's gotten us to a point where we are almost all still here in my family. So this week, there were tragic murders in Atlanta of a white male terrorist who drove spa to spa looking for Asian women to murder. And it's such a horrible and helpless feeling. I think it probably feels to Asians in America the way the Pittsburgh shooting felt to Jewish people in America, that there was a ticking time bomb or there was a fuse that had been lit and you didn't know when it was going to go. And so I've been trying to educate myself to be able to correctly pronunciate and spell the names of the people who were murdered. There's an organization called Asian Americans Advancing Justice. Their Atlanta chapter, I'll put the link in the show notes. The Atlanta chapter has raised about $650,000 to support the families of the victims and also the people who survived and will need incredible care. And their Chicago chapter is doing a series of bystander trainings with Hollaback in April. So I'll put the link to that as well. I'm attending the April 13th bystander training. I'm attending the bystander training on April 13th. Again, Asian Americans Advancing Justice. That one is with the Chicago chapter, but you don't have to be in Chicago to attend the webinar. So it's just terrible. And I'm holding a lot of people dear in my heart and a lot of the people I know and the strangers to me as we go through this. Changing topics. Today is my parents' 51st wedding anniversary, so happy anniversary to Linda and Larry Jones. We had a big dinner planned last year for their 50th wedding anniversary, and then decided that going to the steakhouse in Danville with their salad buffet right at the beginning of COVID seemed dangerous, and so we decided to postpone until August. Obviously, in August, we weren't going to steakhouses with salad bars either. Happy anniversary to my parents, and we will finally get to celebrate this year. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to my own birthday on Tuesday. My twin sister and I have our birthday on Tuesday. It's our second pandemic birthday, but I will be going to a Doughboys live show, live on the internet, obviously not live in person, So I'm pretty happy that one of my favorite podcasts scheduled a live show just for my birthday. Finally, today on the podcast, I've got my friend Veronica Arreola. Veronica is here to talk about pay equity in professional sports and her love of women's soccer. We recorded this interview on February 23rd, so it's a month old because I know that had Veronica and I done this interview yesterday or this week at some point, we would have talked about the inequities between the NCAA men and women's basketball tournaments. That the men had fully kitted out weight rooms, and that the women had a stack of sanitized yoga mats and like 3 dumbbells. It looks like that has been rectified to some level, that a Dick's Sporting Good in San Antonio filled up 3 U-Hauls of everything in their store and drove it there. At least that is what seems to have happened according to Twitter. So this is a great conversation with Veronica about soccer, pay inequity, um, and while pay inequity is really visible in sports, talking about it in sports makes it possible to talk about it in our own industries, in the nonprofits where we volunteer or work, and how important it is to reach for pay equity for your whole staff. Something I think about a lot. So please enjoy this interview with Veronica, and I will see you next weekend. Stay safe, stay home, wash your hands, and wear your mask. Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we find out about people's favorite things and get recommendations without using an algorithm. This week, I am joined by Veronica Arreola. Veronica works at UIC in the GANAS program, which is for Latinos in Science and Engineering. She is the host of the Feminist Agenda. She's a professional feminist, soccer mom, and writer. She's also someone that I knew initially through the world of Gaper's Block, early Chicago internet, and we go to the same Halloween party. So we met many times, many years in a row with masks on before masks were required. How are you doing tonight, Veronica?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on, and another in the parade of the Halloween party guests.
Yes. There are a number of people that it was truly years before I met them out of costume.
Yes, and there are people we still refer to by certain costumes.
Yeah. This week I took a class of Brandy's. I took her stack method class, and I was describing it to someone else who goes to the Halloween parties. And this person was like, I don't know, have I met Brandy? And I was like, yes, you were dressed like this. She was dressed like a squiggly bug. You were eating tater tots in the kitchen. I promise you know each other.
Yes, I definitely am like the pandas, Indiana Jones, those sorts of things. Still think about Jenny's swan costume.
The
So,
year that there was a year with
excellent.
3 women in swan costumes, right? Jenny, Jackie.
I think so, yes, there was.
I think there was a third.
I think you were right, but I don't remember.
And then like Jenny because it was such a high effort costume, she came back many years in a row as like Bjork plus. She kept
Yes,
reinterpreting the swan dress.
absolutely. It worked well with the mashup, I believe.
I can't wait. There are so many things I'm looking forward to about the vaccine, and that Halloween party is one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same.
So Veronica and I are both sitting inside on what was like the nicest day in Chicago in at least a month. Did you get to open a window or see the outside today, or have you been locked inside?
I didn't open a window, but I did go outside to look for the UPS truck and enjoyed some fresh air and being outside without a coat for the first time in a
Ooh, yeah.
while. Although I didn't wear a coat for a lot of the time I was out on Sunday. So I was shoveling and it was just warm enough.
You chipped the ice off of an entire city block, didn't you?
Not an entire city block, a corner of a city block. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It was Andrew and Cinnamon's idea to go out there, and I was like, "Yes, that is brilliant. Let's go."
Yeah.
And then when we got home, I jumped out of our front window into the big pile of snow in our front yard.
Was that as fun as you thought it was gonna be?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you do it more than once?
No, just once.
That is great. I left I went yesterday was like my first time out of the off the block in 2 weeks. And it was like I got home and I was like as excited as if I had just gone to see a Broadway show because I had left not just my apartment but the whole block and seen that Lawrence Avenue is still there. There are people in the world. It was like a really exciting small things lately.
Small things. When you see other humans, you're like, "Wow."
Yeah. What's it been like working with college students this past year? Was UIC on spring break and it was like, wait just one more week or how did things shut down and what's it been like?
We shut down about a week before spring break, I believe. And we initially did say that we were gonna have spring break for 2 weeks and then be back,
Right.
and then quickly realized it was not gonna be 2 weeks.
Right.
I knew it wasn't gonna be 2 weeks, but I thought maybe 8 weeks at most.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I did the math on how fast the virus gets around, and I was like, "Well, if we can all just stay home for 4 to 6 weeks, I am sure we can get through this in 8 and just be done with it," which still stands. We just couldn't stay home for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. You were correct in your assessment. If we could stay home for 4 to 6 weeks, we'd
Mhm.
have it kicked. Yeah.
So this past year has been pretty challenging. I mean, a lot of what the work I do is work with first year college students.
Yeah.
So they're either transferring in from 2-year colleges or right out of high school, and welcome to college. Here's a Zoom room for you. Trying to replicate the work we do in terms of peer mentoring,
Right.
w- really hard, but I think on the whole we did it. We got most of our students through the fall semester.
Wonderful.
Did a lot of virtual events, but we saw a lot of what we see in person
Mhm.
replicated virtually as well. So we had a lot of students who said we need to have a lot more events, and then we would plan a lot more events, and then a handful of them would show up.
Yeah. The same 5 students would come to every event?
Yeah,
Yeah.
high registration rates, low turnout,
Yeah.
low percentage turnout, which is par for the course for
Yeah.
any event, but especially in higher education.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're all eager to get back on campus and working with students who a lot of them want to go into health sciences
Mhm.
has been interesting because so many of them are just really eager to get done with their school so they can jump in and start really helping with the pandemic and the
Yeah.
impacts and its after effects and how to how to address the disparities that have been revealed for the whole world to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been every racist healthcare policy, every racist real estate zoning policy has been shown for what it was with this pandemic. So, it's been like a UV light on policy.
Absolutely. It's made a lot of my students just even more excited
Yeah.
about their work, about their studies and their future, and like I said, getting into the fray.
Yeah. It is for the last few years cuz I when I went back to school, it was for a degree in health communications, which I did not ever find a full-time role where I could plug in. Like in the years that have followed in the last 5 years, I've thought, man, I really that time might have been better spent in nursing school in like a more direct care studying for a clinical role. Because it is also shown how important every patient-facing person in a hospital system or healthcare system really is, all the way up and down the building. So,
I mean, as I tell my students, everyone's got a different place on the spectrum of healthcare
yeah.
service. And as we are seeing right now, and unfortunately, you're not, as we're seeing right now, the communication of healthcare and the importance of vaccinations is
hmm
absolutely a vital part of us getting through this pandemic.
Yeah.
So, nurses are definitely important, as we have definitely learned over this
Yes.
last year. Highly important, probably the number one important person in
Yeah.
the healthcare system, but we all have roles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say it's also been weird to feel like, well, the best thing, it is strange to feel like when the the thing that's best for you to do is stay in your house. It's been a very
Yeah.
weird way to take action.
Yes.
Do the right thing. Don't leave.
Yes, very much.
Have you and your family, changing gears a little bit, found any new favorite shows or any media that you've revisited or that you found for the first time that you've really enjoyed?
We've been burning through media pretty fast.
Yeah.
You know, we have we've watched The Mandalorian, we watched Ted Lasso,
Oh, I keep hearing that
and
is an outstanding show.
it is outstanding. We're currently watching WandaVision, um, and my daughter, who is 17, keeps rewatching Gilmore Girls, probably for the 500th time. And she, she's still watching she's still watching Grey's Anatomy and lots of other shows.
A
So
TV show
I
that's
think we
only
each
1 year older than her? Or is the same
yes.
Grey's
I
Anatomy as
think
as
it's
old
about
as?
this. It might be about as old as she is. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I keep hearing it's like 17 or 18 seasons, which is bananas.
It is. And I've barely watched any of it, but she loves it. So,
Yeah. It was something we all watched when I first moved to Chicago. So 2002. Like Gilmore Girls and Greys were two things in high rotation in the days before DVR and everything. And I definitely Gilmore Girls was a early pandemic rewatch for me.
okay.
I needed something, no surprises.
I've heard that. I haven't done a lot of rewatches this
No?
pandemic. I've been getting through new shows and finding new things.
Yeah.
That's been interesting. I think I just want to consume new things. I
Yeah.
want new things, and
It is life without a commute has made more room too for the big shows.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All this extra time in my life.
Yeah, because it seems like Mandalorian is on my list
Mhm.
because that's now two seasons.
2 seasons.
Okay, and I just watched all of WandaVision on Friday night.
Oh, wow.
I was up very late. Maybe I watched it on Saturday. That might make more sense if I started on earlier on Saturday. But I'm not a Marvel person, so I went in not really
Oh,
like I know about the clap or the snap or like I know the thing that happens
yes, the
because I
snap.
do use the internet. And I knew as much as like I don't know, any of the people who didn't went into it knowing nothing, any of the characters that were like, what is happening? Like that
Mhm.
was me as a viewer. And it is so fun.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear that.
Oh, I loved it. But I didn't know like you're all caught up, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
So I didn't understand that their Halloween costumes were like classic Marvel versions of themselves.
Yes,
So like I
yes.
didn't get that. So there were those sorts of things that like went completely over my head. I don't understand. Her brother, was he being played by a different superhero? Like, was that an Easter egg?
It is an Easter egg in some sense. So, see, I didn't read the comics, so
Yeah.
even but I know enough of the history to have known that those were flashback costumes. Her brother is recast because what we know of the MCU is different is in a different universe than what we know of the X-Men movies. But there are but they're both Marvel.
Yeah.
And so her brother is actually in the X-Men movies, the
Oh.
reboot of the X-Men movies. Um,
So
and
the character of
so
Pietro is an X-Men,
yes,
or is in the X-Men
yes,
universe, and
yes.
Wanda is in
And
the
also
Avengers universe.
Pietro is in both, but he is
Okay.
played by different actors in each universe.
Oh.
So
Okay.
yes. So in the Marvel universe, her brother is killed,
Yes.
and so the only, I guess, the logical way in the comic book, and it's funny to think about logical ways in comic
Yeah.
books, they bring Pietro back is to actually pull him from a different universe,
So it's like
which is the X-Men universe.
how in the Spider-Man movie there were like all the Spider-Men from different comic books got together.
Yes.
So this is that theory where
Yes.
they pulled him out of one comic book and brought him over.
Absolutely. Yes.
Ah, that explains a meme that I couldn't understand. There's this video of somebody was like, "Oh my god, I had to do it." And it's Pietro, but they did a face swap
Uh-huh.
with the actor who plays him in Marvel. No, 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 with
Mhm.
the actor who plays him in X-Men.
Uh-huh. No.
The
So
Marvel,
the
the guy who
I
got killed in Marvel.
yes.
The guy who got killed in Avengers.
Yes.
So they take that guy and they face swap him with Pietro from X-Men who's in WandaVision.
Yes.
And people are like, "Ha ha ha, ha, that's so funny." I'm like, "But it's same guy? How is
It's the
it
same character.
it's a why how is it different?" So now I understand why that's funny.
Yes, and then both of them not only play the same character, but in different universes, but they both were in Kick-Ass together.
Okay.
So, there's a scene when they're out trick-or-treating where they say Kick-Ass like 3 times, and so people are like, "Oh, it's a throwback to Kick-Ass," which it may or may not, I'm not sure.
But Kick-Ass is or is not a comic book movie?
I think it is.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on
But
that.
they're not playing Wanda and Pietro and that. They're just like happen to
No.
be people working together again
Yes.
with writers that love an Easter egg.
Yes, but they're not so both both Pietros were
Yeah.
in Kick-Ass.
Oh, Wanda was not in Kick-Ass.
Wanda was not in Kick-Ass. Correct.
Okay.
So,
Man.
yes. There's
Okay.
this show is so full of Easter eggs that after every episode, I go through and try to read a
Yeah.
lot of them. There's just so many, I miss them.
That's so fun. I was just loving the perfect way that it like they get the essence of every decade of TV show is phenomenal.
Mhm.
So like that stuff I was picking up on, but the Marvel stuff I was all like, woof, woof, woof. So I didn't understand. I did the only other thing that I saw before I watched it on fake TikTok, because I just watch Instagram Reels, I don't have real TikTok, is how Randall
Yes.
in a movie he got Ant-Man to teach him the card trick.
Yes, I love that TikTok.
Yeah, and then he does it to Rambo,
Monica.
Monica
Yes.
Rambeau,
Yes.
who is Captain Marvel.
So, in the comics, she has taken over the Captain Marvel mantle at
Oh,
times,
okay.
but she is also Photon in the comics, and because there is a Carol Danvers Captain Marvel and going to be a
Yeah.
Captain Marvel 2 movie, most of us think that she's going to be Photon.
Okay. That makes more sense. Makes more sense. Okay. I've just been like a troweling fishing net of Marvel tidbits for the last 15 years.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen Black Panther, Wonder Woman, which is DC, it's not Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man, which is also DC.
It depends on which Spider-Man. No, Spider-Man. No. So, Spider-Man is Marvel.
Okay.
But I think he has jumped spaces.
Okay.
He is also Marvel, and he was owned by Sony.
That
And
okay.
there was some fights about Spider-Man. Yeah.
So I have, of like the, I don't know, 12 or 15 movies in the Avengers timeline, I have probably seen 4.
Okay.
And then I've just been on the internet with you and our friends who are like way more into Marvel than I am. So I have absorbed a lot of trivia, but obviously not correct. I'm like eavesdropping on my friends talking about grown-up things, and
Yes.
I'm half understanding it, but I found it very entertaining, the show.
It is. It is very entertaining. So
I didn't invite you here tonight to explain WandaVision to me, but I am so grateful you did.
you're welcome.
Were there any other Easter eggs that, so did you know that she's not Agatha. She is.
Agatha, yes.
Did you know she was going to be the witch?
Like I said, I didn't read the comics, so I didn't go in. I didn't pick that up as fast as other people did.
Okay.
As I was reading through, Easter eggs, there was definitely a theory about she could be Agatha Harkness.
Okay.
Which was exciting to me. So when that was revealed, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Because I love a good witch.
Or
especially
bad
a witch
witch?
on witch. Yes.
Oh, now knowing she's a witch and you go back to like the Bewitched episode in the first one. Oh, I need to rewatch it. Yeah, when she opened that basement door, I was like, don't go in the basement. This is not good. Yeah. Were there any other moments that you had got a big cheer from you?
I really like Darcy. I just really like her snarkiness.
Yeah.
And the way she just kind of moves about in the world. And Catherine Hahn is just always excellent.
She's fantastic.
Yes. There was one episode, I think the Halloween episode, there wasn't very much of her, and I was very disappointed. I was like, where?
She's just in that car at the edge of town.
Otherwise, I'm really loving the show.
Yeah.
It was very, very weird, and I know it was hard for some people to get through the first couple episodes, but I love that stuff.
Yeah, I guess if you know more, it would bother you because it feels like it's not getting to the story, but I was just like, I love everything. I don't understand why this is happening, but it was so well styled, and the actors are, his boss's wife from that 70s show.
Yes.
Like seeing her essentially come back in the same character. Like she was so fun. Seeing his office change over time, and it's always the same coworkers with the same general attitude, and I don't know. I thought it was all delightful.
It has been delightful. And our pod watches it pretty much every week together.
Yeah.
And we have a spectrum of Marvel knowledge. So after every episode, there's always like, what did that mean? What did that mean? And so we do a little dissection.
Oh, I love it. So fun. again, even though you gave me remedial Marvel, and I'm grateful for it, we are here to talk about the subject of your T-shirt,
Yes.
which says, "I want to be like Megan Rapinoe."
Rapino.
Rapinoe.
Uh-huh.
Never said her name out loud before. Who is a professional soccer player. So
Yes.
you tell me, what are we here to talk about today?
Oh, women's soccer and how somehow it took over my life
Yeah.
or parts of my life, unwittingly. Um, and it still continues to be a somewhat mystery for me because I was not a soccer fan when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't play soccer. Um, I thought it was kind of boring. I also am not a big runner, so a game that requires you to keep running for
It
90
is
minutes was
so much
like,
running.
I'm out.
Yeah.
In high school, junior year, I got cut from the softball team, and that was it. That was the end of my softball career. Um, Someone from our girls' soccer team found me the next day and was like, "So you want to be on the soccer team? We can put you on varsity." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm done. Thank you, but
Yeah.
I don't run that much."
No, you can't go from a sport where you run 90 feet at a time to running 90 minutes at a time.
And in softball, it's only 60 feet, I think. So
Oh, okay.
even shorter.
So 90 feet is like you ran to first, you thought you were going to get to second, and you came back.
Yes. Exactly.
So soccer was not in your life in high school. There
Mhm.
was some, because we're close to the same age. There
Yeah.
was that when the World Cup was in the United States. I'm from
Yes.
Indiana. There was like a wave of soccer fever for a month.
Yes.
Did that hit your high school? Did that hit you?
So I was already out of college by then,
Okay.
and it only hit me when the final came. I think
Okay.
I knew it was like buzzing around me,
Yeah.
but um, it wasn't until the final and I watched it and I was like, "What is this amazing game and these amazing women? And I need to know more."
Yeah.
So, I think I've read interviews, watched interviews, the Brandy Chastain tearing off her jersey kind of thing,
Right.
gave a lot of fodder. So I followed a lot of that conversation, and by that time, I was heavily into working on women and girls issues.
Mhm.
So it just kind of like fit into this like nice little spot in my professional life.
Yeah.
And in my professional life, as well as feminist activism and just about how the 99 World Cup didn't get as much play in the United States as one would expect,
Right.
because I think it was 98, 97 when the men's World Cup was in Chicago and there was a big heat wave.
Yeah.
Um, and I had volunteered to actually work the World Cup, but because it was a gazillion degrees outside, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going." Um,
Right.
but I remember all of the media attention, the hubbub, and all of the big celebrities who were supposed to be there, and saw none of that in '99, and was frankly really upset for a sport that I could care less about 2 weeks before. But my feminist antennas weren't up, and it
Yeah.
was just like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So it
Um,
was 1994 was the Men's World Cup in Chicago.
okay,
So that was the summer before my senior year of high school.
okay,
And then 1999 was the Women's World Cup in the US.
yes,
And so that final game was the US and China, or was it the US and
yes.
Brazil?
No, it's the US and China.
Okay.
So yeah, those two things were fairly close in my memory of being able to draw some comparison to.
Yeah.
And it was also a couple years after the '96 Olympics, which was in Atlanta, which
Yep.
I followed pretty closely. I love the Olympics. winter and summer.
Yeah, and that was I remember the 96 Olympics. I was interning in San Francisco, and I was kind of like a little sheepish that the intern from Indiana in San Francisco, really wanted to watch the opening ceremony. And
Uh-huh.
somebody from the nonprofit where I was interning had me over to her house. So she was like secretly into the Olympics. And so she was like, come to my house. You don't have to be embarrassed that you want to watch the opening ceremonies. And that was super cool.
Oh, that's cool. No,
Yeah.
I'm all in every year.
Yeah.
Every Olympics, I'm like opening ceremonies, bam, bam, I make a schedule.
Because that's also, I think,
Um,
that's either the last year they were both the same year or the first year after they split.
I think it was the first year after they split because I think 92 was the last year they were
Yeah.
both together because then there was 94 Winter Olympics.
Yes. So that is a big stretch of, I had never put those in together, that it was 94 World Cup, 96 Olympics, 99 World Cup, like big international sporting events happening in the US
Hmm.
over the course of 4 years. I have never put those events together in my head.
And it's pretty phenomenal to think about that, how much attention was put on sports in this country in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But then also being able to gauge how that was seen and portrayed in the media,
Yeah.
as well as in sponsorships and ads. And I think 96, 97 was probably around the time where we started to see things like the Mia Hamm, I want to be like Mike
Yeah.
commercial,
Yeah.
where I think we really, after 99, we call them the 99ers for a reason, the whole
Uh-huh.
squad, the 99ers, because we really thought that this was it. This was the tipping point for women's sports, at least women's soccer.
Right.
That finally they had arrived. We're going to welcome them. We're going to have this league. And then it quickly fell apart.
Yeah.
We got bored with them really quickly as a nation. Um, yeah, as with we do, I think every 2 years, women's sports, women's athletes get elevated to this spotlight, and then the spotlight goes away. There's not
Yeah.
hasn't been enough sustained attention until maybe the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's really interesting because it is, they go right back into, and because the Olympics demands you be an amateur in most sports, they
Mhm.
also go right back into poverty,
Oh, yeah.
right? Except for like the men who play basketball because they're allowed to be professionals.
Yes.
And I guess
And
the
now women's
soccer.
soccer, yeah.
Yeah. So when did when did you claim a team? So you start getting kind of like interested in realizing here's a sport that fits in with how I view the world and it's more exciting than I thought.
Uh-huh.
When do you get a team that you like?
Oh, probably not until about 2006,
Okay.
which coincides with our daughter learning soccer,
Aha.
w- with
Yeah.
us putting her into soccer. We put her into soccer because she was very athletic, a lot of energy, liked to run around,
Yeah.
and you had to be, I think, 5 to start t-ball,
Mhm.
because baseball, softball are the sports that my husband and I love and
Yeah.
played as kids. And we're like, okay, well, soccer will do until we can get into t-ball.
Uh-huh.
But she took to it like a fish in water.
Really?
She loved it. She was really good at it. And every year after t-ball started, we are like, so do we add t-ball to this? We're like, things are going pretty well in soccer.
Yeah.
Do we want to have two competing sports at the same time?
Yeah,
No.
because they're the same season, right? They're both summer
Yeah.
sports.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
she,
so every year the schedule came out and my husband and I would talk about it and say, "Nope, let's just stick with soccer. We're
yeah,
two busy adults." And she's pretty busy with the soccer thing, and um, why why add to the chaos of our lives?
Yeah.
She's doing fine.
Was she
And
a
so yeah, so yeah.
a purely outdoor soccer, or did she do indoor? Isn't there like winter soccer inside?
There is, yeah. At a certain point we did start adding winter soccer in.
Yeah.
I think oh, that was it also. She was in gymnastics. We put her in gymnastics pretty early as well. So she was doing gymnastics and soccer until maybe 8 or 9,
Okay.
and then she outgrew gymnastics,
Yep.
and I think that was, and I say outgrew, I think there was that point where you either start getting serious or you're not.
Mhm.
She also started getting longer, and
Yep.
so gymnastics is the best a sport for tinier people.
Yeah, it's a really like explosive, it's like TNT.
Yes.
Very very small, lots of energy, explode out. Yeah. I also got too tall for we did gymnastics for a few years, and our mom's 6 foot, so they were pretty quickly like, yeah, the Jones girls, you have no future here. Go to the swimming pool where your like your bodies match swimming more than gymnastics. So we swam.
Yeah. So we dropped gymnastics and then added, I think that was about the same time where we were asked, or we were told by the AYSO that there's this other program for players who want to play more and more
Yeah.
competitively. And so we signed her up for that. So that was the start of our travel soccer life.
Wow.
And part of that also included um, playing in the winter. So she just started to play soccer almost all year.
That's amazing. That's
And then,
it's
of course, I wanted to provide her with role models
Yeah.
because to be a good soccer player, as with anything, you want to be a good X, you want to be a good writer, you read a lot.
Mhm.
So you want to be a good soccer player, you watch soccer.
Yeah.
And so we started watching whatever was on TV. We'd take her to the Chicago Red Stars games.
Mhm.
And that was, like I said, just kind of built from there.
Yeah. So it builds from there. The You've got the Chicago Red Stars, who are our women's professional team.
Mhm.
Um and were you initially going with her teams? Would it be like a team outing once a season to see them, or when did it become, because I think of you as being a very big fan of women's soccer.
Uh-huh.
So I'm definitely feeling the crescendo.
Uh-huh.
But when can you think of a moment when it went from I'm being a good parent to my daughter and making sure she has access to the sports, that she has access to role models, that she's seeing good soccer, and also I enjoy the soccer.
I think somewhere, oh, when I like something, I really go right in. I just
Yeah.
dive right in, right into the deep end of the pool. And maybe around, say in the 20, maybe maybe the 2011 World Cup,
Okay.
maybe maybe even a little bit earlier than that. Maybe the build up to that. Really, the Olympics and the World Cup just,
Mhm.
bam, bam, bam. And that's the thing about women's soccer. The World Cup is held the year before the Summer Olympics. So you have almost like 2.5 years of like women's soccer
Got
is
it.
like a thing that just
Yeah.
builds up. And then you have a short period that they're off.
Yeah.
And then um, I'm very big into like your feminist duty. Your
Mhm.
feminist duty is then on those off years is to support the club, which is the Chicago Red Stars,
Okay.
so that your superstar players have some place to play in
Yeah.
between the World Cup and the Olympics.
And that they get to come home to play and not have to play in
Yes.
Europe.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's definitely it. Um, actually, you know what? I'm gonna put my time at around, yeah, I think the around 2010 also. 2010 is when I started a Facebook group, during a Facebook group during the Winter Olympics because it was yet another Olympics where
Yeah.
I noticed that all the sports were like, "Look at these amazing women, and look at this amazing woman do this," and hockey, women's hockey, and ice dancing, and just, like, everything women could do was amazing,
Yeah.
and I knew it wasn't gonna last because I
Right.
had seen it so many times before, and, um, women's soccer had probably been at least on its 2nd league.
Mm-hmm.
um, Women's basketball was the WNBA was still growing. Chicago, I think, had a softball team by that time. We had a football team.
We
It was
did?
we had a football team, yes, and we were
Oh,
champions one year. We were a great team.
who knew?
The
You knew.
Chicago Force. I knew.
Wow.
It was maybe the height of roller derby in the city,
Okay.
2010.
Yeah.
So I was like, there is women's sports all around. It's not just in the Olympics and it's
Yeah.
not every 2 years. And I made the world's longest Facebook name. It was like, I pledge to attend a women's event once a year. That was it. It was a simple challenge, just once
Yeah.
a year. And it grew pretty fast. And it was all about just pushing people out to go see women's,
Go see a
um,
sport.
go see a sport. In
Yeah.
Chicago, it's really easy. In some parts of the world, in the parts of the country, it's not.
Right.
So it merged pretty fast from just women's professional to women's collegiate.
Yeah.
Because you're in the middle of Montana, you don't have a pro team, but you probably have a university
Absolutely.
or even a high school to go
Yeah.
cheer on. Women's sports definitely started to just, it's not that it wasn't a part of my life before 2010, but it definitely became more centered in my life,
Yeah. Well, I
more of a
mean, and it
focal
makes
point.
sense that as you're trying to make sure that you're walking the talk, and
Hmm.
you're not just telling your daughter that she is and can be a great athlete, but you're making sure she sees it,
Hmm.
and that you know that in order for her to be able to see it, more of us we got to show up.
Yes.
We have to go to the games, go to the matches, tune in, get the views on TV or the YouTube video so
Mhm.
that people see that there is an audience. Therefore, there
Mhm.
are dollars.
Yes.
Therefore, you can pay them more, pay them something. I know that the pay inequities between women and men's sports is embarrassing.
It is. And it was definitely this market idea that if we could just go, we show up, these women's teams, women athletes would get more respect.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2015,
Yes.
and the US women win the World Cup again.
Yeah.
And then demanded fair, equitable pay
Yeah.
because the men's team were getting way, way more money, and the
To
men's team
lose.
sucks.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it was even like the year before the men's team didn't even qualify for the World Cup,
Yeah.
somewhere in there, or was trounced very quickly. Anyway, so then it was very clear that winning and eyeballs was not bringing them money
Mhm.
and bringing them equity. And that really pissed me off.
Yeah.
The next year, and every year after the World Cup, there's a tour,
Mhm.
particularly if they win, and it's not cheap, but we go.
Yeah.
And then I realized that US Soccer is actually headquartered in Chicago.
Oh.
Yes, in, that nice little where those mansions are by Soldier Field,
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
South Loop.
Yeah.
That's one of those little mansions is where US Soccer is headquartered,
Oh.
and So I organized this little like protest, and maybe like 30 people showed up, and we
Yeah.
had little signs asking them for fair pay. Of course, that didn't happen. But then the idea of supporting women's sports, particularly women's soccer, was even more aligned with feminist activism.
Yeah.
And not so much that I ever thought it was trickle down feminism as much as this is such a high profile case of pay inequity that not doing something, not saying something seemed wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it just started to get even more, you know, becoming more and more a part of my life is to
Uh-huh.
know more about the women that I'm cheering on, and we're watching and going to more and more Red Stars
Mm-hmm.
games, reading their biographies when they come out, watching documentaries. My daughter's favorite player when she was younger was Alex Morgan. I think it still is. We got her a fat head for her wall
Nice.
and jerseys. And one year we paid a little extra money to sit um, on the sidelines when Alex's team came to play the Red Stars, so that we were like right there on the field to
Cool.
watch her hero. And she got her jersey signed. It was just, like I said, it just kind of feels like it took over my life. And now I have enough women's soccer t-shirts that I could wear one every day of the week, if at least.
Fantastic. Did the protests ever get bigger? I feel like I hear about it a lot, about the
Uh,
pay inequity, but do I hear about it a lot because I know you? But it's not because I know you. It's because the headlines have gotten bigger, right?
the headlines have gotten bigger. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think around 2016, 2015, 2016 is when the team I think the team was winning enough that it didn't make sense to everybody else that
Yeah.
they were being paid so little
Yeah.
to win so big. And every year the women's union, the women's union and players will come out with more and more data about how many more eyeballs they have on TV,
Mhm.
how many more wins, how many more of their jerseys are sold.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make sense. So it just got more and more hype and more attention. Um, and and I think on some level there was just more, I think there was just more attention paid to some of the
Yeah.
players. Like, so around 2015, 2016 with Abby Wambach, and then more and more of them started to chime in, where we bring in Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe and Carly Lloyd. And then they started to do things where they would show up on talk shows together to talk about their lawsuit, about their
Yeah.
gripes against the union. Um, it was around It was around 2016 that on the Victory Tour, if I remember correctly, that Megan Rapinoe actually tore her ACL.
Ooh.
And the reporting was because it was poor field conditions.
Mhm.
In her memoir that came out last year, she says it actually wasn't, but it helped their cause. Um, but
Right. To
reports
say
about
that you're letting these elite professional
Mhm,
athletes play on fields that are so subpar that you're giving them possible career-ending injuries,
absolutely.
right? Like that's how you spin it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there were poor field conditions, there
Sure.
were rundown hotels, flying coach,
Just
things
squeezing their little into those little seats. Something you would
yes,
never ask a male professional athlete to do.
exactly, exactly. Meanwhile, they're raking in millions and millions of dollars for the federation
Right.
through sales and
Mhm.
ad sales. Where was I going with this? So it just kept building and building and building, in media, and more lawsuits, and me, because of how I am, was like, well, where does this come from? And learning about how people like Julie Foudy, who was on the 99ers, helped mentor some of the some of the women on the national team about
Yeah.
using their voice to amplify
Mm-hmm.
these inequities. And Julie Foudy learned it from Billie Jean King. So this is just
Yeah.
this conversation is an excellent example of like this generational teaching and mentoring,
Yeah.
um, which fits perfectly into my whole like love of feminist history and desire to not pit generations against each other.
Right. That it can be mentorship and not
Mhm.
competition or
Absolutely.
right, because the
And yeah,
Billie Jean King versus the guy who yelled a
Riggs.
lot. Yeah.
Yes. Bobby Riggs.
Bobby Riggs. Like that was supposed to be the end of the conversation,
Yeah, it
right?
was.
It was supposed to be like that was supposed to be it.
Uh-huh.
And that was in the 70s or 80s.
It was in the 70s.
70s, yeah. Oh,
Early 70s,
yeah.
yes. As old as us.
Yeah.
This conversation's been happening.
Oh,
Um,
and it's do you know I said like don't worry, you don't have to be the expert, you're the fan, but do the women in the soccer league ever team up with the cuz the women in the WNBA, like the NBA seems to have done a slightly better job of equity.
Not
Slight
really.
no, that's a illusion.
No. It is an illusion.
Okay.
And a good illusion, but yeah, no, they're I do believe that they have some cross collaboration conversations
Yeah.
um, about equity in sports,
Yeah.
and I think that helps through organizations like the Women's Sports Foundation,
Okay.
which Billie Jean King also helped found, I believe, um, where they have these conversations about pay equity and how to get there. The WNBA this last year had a amazing new contract where now maternity leave or family leave is in
Mhm.
there. Um, but both of these leagues have been fighting for things like separate hotel rooms for years and are
What?
just starting to get that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Which again, in the grand scheme of the world doesn't seem like a lot, but when you compare that to there's no way the NBA has guys on a regular
bunking up.
basis bunking up.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's it's very frustrating,
Yeah.
but actually pretty it's actually been pretty awesome at the same time. I mean, in 2019 during the World Cup, at the end of the finals, after the US won their back-to-back
Mhm.
championship, the crowd just started cheering equal pay, equal pay
Nice.
in France. So
Wow.
it's not like they were in the US and
It was you.
filled right. So
Yeah.
people who had enough money to go to France to
And be
watch
in the
them
right.
were still aware enough and wanted to see their players get fair pay.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Um, so
What
this
go ahead.
conversation is being watched
Yeah.
by our girls on all of our kids,
Yeah.
but particularly our girls. And so it's been really so it's just another reason why I continue to like kind of sound the alarm or give people updates and be um be really extra about what's happening on their negotiations because
Yeah.
like I said, like as I said, our kids are watching this. They hear their heroes, their role models, their favorite players talk about juggling parenting and playing
Yeah.
and pay equity and all of these things. And it's pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. Cuz it is I think it's interesting to think about, talking about pay is so taboo except for professional sports.
Yeah.
It's like this, it's an open book. You get to know who gets paid what. It's everybody knows everybody's salary. And it is, I wonder, if talking about your pay was just less taboo across all walks of life, then you can take more action. But you have to break that taboo of like, oh, well, we don't talk about money
Oh,
unless we're
yeah,
talking about
absolutely.
athletes' monies. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I work at a state university, so all of our salaries are public record.
Yeah.
And so that has definitely led to some conversations over the years
I'm sure.
about pay equity, in units as well as between units.
Yep.
And so I think the more we know about each other's salary, the harder it is to justify pay inequity.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes you're locked in by the system, which I often am
Yeah.
as a supervisor at in a large university.
Mhm.
But sometimes, I do my best to do the best for everybody.
Yeah. I want to be mindful of time because I know
Yeah.
we started late, but I don't want
Sorry, I
to
can
keep
talk
you super
forever.
late. Okay. Well, then, I don't want to be mindful of time at all.
Let's
Second half. So, in a non pandemic year, what
Mhm.
does a season of being a fan look like for you in soccer?
Oh,
Like, what
um,
is when you're like
so
in the throw of watching professional games and your daughter's games and local sports, like
uh-huh.
what does a season of a soccer season look like for you?
Oh, so about this time,
Yeah.
beginning of March, I will sit down with all of the professional sport schedules in the
Uh-huh.
city and map it out on the calendar, and then hope that I can get to enough games over the summer, that we
Yeah.
can get to enough games as a family. And then as soon as my daughter's schedule comes out, then map that on that calendar and say, all right, this weekend we've got soccer on Saturday, which means we can go see the Chicago Bandits play softball on Friday night, or the Red Stars on a Sunday, and things like that. So I'm very detailed and organized most summers in
Wow.
terms of who's playing where and when and how many games we can get to.
Right. Cuz it's
Yes, it's like a battle. It is drawn.
amazing. Because travel soccer, well, does she still do travel soccer, or do you switch to like high school and I don't entirely understand clubs. I don't know. I'm not a
It's con
parent, so it's confusing. There's
it
so
is
many sports
confusing.
kids can play.
Yes.
So does she still travel?
Yes. So, the
You can
way
also
high
say like, "Leah, I'm
school
not gonna talk about my daughter's stuff." But
it's okay. No,
okay.
I talk about her stuff all the time, which is probably why she gives me stink eye, but, um, I do talk about my daughter's stuff, which is one of the first times she realized I talked about her on the internet was when strangers started asking her how her soccer game was,
Aha.
or
Yes.
congratulating her on scoring 2 goals, and she was
Uh-huh.
like, "I don't know who you are. How do you know that?" So, but in high school, we play. She plays club in the fall and the winter, and then in the spring she plays high school.
Okay.
And then summer, there'll probably be 1 or 2 tournaments that she'll be invited to play,
Nice.
or she'll go to summer camps,
Yeah.
um, for that. So we her club has asked has told us that they plan to have at least a tournament in the summer.
Yeah.
And I think that's possibly more for the girls who will still be in high school next year,
Yeah.
so that they can get more eyes from college scouts. Um, my daughter is going to college in the fall, and
Congratulations.
thank you. Can you believe we're there?
No.
I know. The entire internet's like, we're old. So many
Yeah.
people use her as this like gauge on how long we've known each other.
That's
Also because she also has been at the Halloween party.
right. Right. She went from like, running a kids' party downstairs, doing a little babysitting, doing, she has definitely her involvement in the party has changed over the years. And
Yes.
um, will you? So when she goes off to college, that'll
Uh-huh.
change your. Are there any kids still playing soccer that you'll want to go catch, or will you turn to like local? It'll be like professional and college sports.
Oh, it will probably be mostly professional. We do have
Yeah.
some friends we do have at least one set of friends whose their daughter and my daughter played together since they
Yeah.
were 8. And she has a younger sister.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll probably go hang out so we can hang out with the parents
Right.
and watch that girl play
Yeah.
during her high school years. But yeah, it'll definitely, I already bought a mini season pass to the Chicago Sky, our WNBA team,
Great.
and my husband's looking into buying a package for the Red Stars. So
It's so exciting because I'm so ready for live events to return to our lives.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and trays of nachos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm I can't wait for live comedy and theater. And
Hmm.
is there anything about professional women's soccer that
Uh-huh.
if you don't say it, you'll be kicking yourself. You'll be like, I can't
Okay.
believe the podcast happened and I didn't tell.
So I will say that for professional women's sports, period,
Mhm.
it's cheap. It's a cheap entrance fee.
Yeah.
So I think every year there's a story about how much the Ricketts jack up prices at Wrigley Field.
So much. Yeah.
And every year people complain about it. Oh, I can't afford to go. A family can't afford to go. A family can afford to go to one women's sporting event every summer on probably the amount of money it takes to go to one Cubs game,
Yeah.
I will say. And the entrance fee is just so low that it's ridiculous. So round up your friends, come with me to a Chicago Red Stars game.
All
We
right.
can yell,
Yep.
have some nachos. Um, Hopefully we can eat in front of each other by then. Um, and have a lot
I
of
think so.
fun.
Yeah.
I think so. I think especially for women's soccer, I just am amazed at the athleticism.
Mhm.
And everyone has athleticism, but there's something, and I think probably because I'm a soccer mom, I see how much work goes into it and how much the players can just snap into this like beast mode.
Yeah.
And so some of my favorite players are the ones where they're just not very nice on the field.
Mhm.
I like to see the hard plays. Yeah, so it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun and I have never been to a women's soccer game or any women's professional game that was rude or filled with
Mhm.
drunken people.
Yeah.
People know how to have a good time.
Is there do the Red Stars have a rival team that like if you were going to go to one game, it's always so much fun when they play.
No.
Okay.
There's
Is the
not
league
a
too small
rival.
for one rival?
I don't know if I just don't know who our rival is,
Yeah.
or I think about it more about with women's soccer, I think about who I want to go see.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go see the Red Stars play Megan Rapinoe. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
see the Red Stars play Alex Morgan,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're gonna play Marta, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's more about me seeing other players as
Mhm.
much and instead of a rival. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to, like I said, the return of live sports. I've never been to the Red Stars. Have I? I've been to one professional soccer game in Chicago. I think it was the Fire. I remember more about like who I went with, what the weather was like, but I don't remember the game at all.
That's fine.
I'm a terrible sports fan. But you want to eat good food in the company of your friends and in the energy of a stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan, but I don't remember every player's numbers.
Yeah.
I don't remember players' stats or even where we are in the standings most of the time.
Yeah.
I just go because it's fun. And I love sports. I love live sports. I'm a huge sports fan, period. It's
Yeah.
just that women's sports has taken a priority in my life. And part of it is parenting, part of it is economics, and part of it is it's just so much fun. Like I said, I don't have to worry about some drunken dude spilling a beer on me.
Yeah. Which is it's a much better experience
Yeah.
than
Absolutely.
going to any of the male professional sports in town. Any of them, really.
And I love taking new people and exposing them.
Yeah.
So I'm always open for going with people, and then hopefully converting them to loving the game.
Fantastic. Veronica, is there anything you would like to promote?
People can find me on the internets, on Twitter and Instagram at Veronica Eye, Veronica EYE. And my podcast's also on Twitter and Instagram at FeministaCast. You can also find me You can also find the podcast at feministagenda.org. That'll take you right to my homepage.
Fantastic. And what is your hook on that podcast?
The Feminist Agenda is a podcast about what it means to be a professional feminist and how to bring feminism into your work, no matter what you do. And we talk about how to keep ourselves organized. So, what organizational tools? I'm a bullet journaler. I've talked to people about passion planning, or some people are just really good with sticky notes and Google Calendar.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
This has.
So good to see you in as close to real life as we get this year.
I know. Hopefully soon. In person.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the sunshine and hearing the melting snow today, the winter fog is lifting.
Yes. Anyway, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.